Howdy doody everybody, my name is Rocky and today I'm coming at you my very first 20v20 White Star replay review. This was the very first 20v20 that I've ever been a part of, and it was of course as per the title between System Shock and Path of Hades. It was an exhausting match, but it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of dynamic happening, a lot of moving parts, and I'm not going to have the opportunity to sort of nitpick every little situation that happened because there's so much going on. We're going to try and focus as much as possible on some key pivoting moments, key moments, pivoting, I don't know why I said pivoting, key moments in the match. There's a lot of destinies going off, as you're going to see here, and it is super laggy when you try to fast forward in full. So this is how it unfolded. Big blob of blue is what it is. So the match ended up being 52-50 in favor of System Shock, and it was a hell of a time getting to that spot. So I'll show you guys how that happened. And as usual, after we do this full replay here, my goodness, we'll break down both sides and sort of show you what each team did differently. There we go. Alright, so now that you've seen the battle unfold 20 times, there's a couple points I want to make before we dive into this. First point is we couldn't quite make 20 members. We do have over 20 members, but we couldn't get enough people together for this 20v20 that we've arranged. So we did reach out to our friends in the Discord community, and we were able to pull together Black Death and Pistol, which we met in the last match we played and I reviewed against Nerf. And Path of Hades, I believe, was also in the same boat. They had to call up a couple members from their sister corps in order to fill that 20 slot. So there is a bit of history here. Another point I want to make, there is a bit of history here. Path of Hades, I guess, was the first corporation that System Shock before my time played, and there was a draw that happened. So naturally this 20v20 had to be against these guys, and I gotta say, hell of an opponent. This was a great match. So we're gonna dive into this right now, and we're gonna talk about the mining operation first. So previously you've seen us gen spam 3 to 4 sectors around this. Gen spamming being that you move a miner into a sector adjacent to it, you use Genesis to generate some hydro, and then you teleport that miner back to the gate, pop out, come back in. So that's what we call gen spamming, as I've said previously. But instead of doing it to 3 to 4 sectors like we've done previously, what we did here was we sent them all to the same sector to gen spam, and we had 2 miners sit in that sector and mine the hydro that was being generated. And of course there was an enrich. That's the point of the that's what the purple outline is. So this was a lot harder to coordinate than doing a gen spam to 3 or 4 sectors around. I'm not gonna lie, and it took a lot of coordination because every time someone would Genesis, because there's so many miners in one sector, you'd hit the max roids, which is 12 in one sector, and you'd have to readjust your time machine. So this was a lot harder, but it did turn out to I don't know, seem to be more streamlined. We had when we sort of compared how much hydro we had compared to what Path of Hades was doing, it was a bit more efficient, but what they were doing was different. So in comparison, I'm going to show you why I say it wasn't really the same as what they were doing. Comparing apples to oranges. So as you can see, once we finished that, we did have Black Death fill up with 3275 hydro, 2000 hydro, and we still had hydro sitting in the sector. But we went north at this point because those miners were moving on, and yeah, that's what you're seeing here. So the mining operation was completely different. We do have a threat imminent to my miner, but we're going to cover that when we cover the battleship movements and stuff like that. So I think that's going to cover it for the mining operation. You can see, again, sort of utilizing one sector opposed to 3 or 4. And the yield was a bit better. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to go up here. We're going to take a look at Path of Hades mining. I like what they did. And hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so what they do was they do a gen spam amongst their 3 sectors. But what I was about to make a comment on that I like is that they used a couple miners to go out and void a couple sectors. So you're going to see the gen spamming happening, of course, with the enriching and the miners sitting around mining said sectors. But these miners that are fanning out here, they're going to void these sectors of any hydro. And effectively what that does, of course, is it eliminates any waypoints that can be set for any incoming battleships or rockets or whatever it may be. So good strategy. I've seen this previously, but I just want to, my hats off to them for doing that. And then their gen spam here. So at this point, they do have, you know, close to, I think I missed the miner that went to the planet with full 2000 hydro here, 1788. So it was okay. All right, so that's going to do it for the opening mining operations. The reason I focus on the opening mining operations is because I think it says a lot about a corporation on how well they can generate their hydro. And of course, hydro is the most important thing next to relics in a White Star. Doesn't matter how big your battleship is. It matters how you use it, but it doesn't matter about your big battleships. It matters about how you get your hydro to the planets and how well you generate that hydro. Genesis plays such a big key role in the White Stars. I think it's important to take that part of my videos and run that in your White Stars and focus on that, because that's the key point, isn't it? To generate them relics with them hydros. All right, let's get to what everyone is here to see, and that is bloodshed. Well, I mean, the real blood is the credits from everyone's account that got bled. But let's break this down a little bit, shall we? So the race is on to get to the level 10 sector. No one's really going to try to mine that sector, so it was really to try and set up a defensive or an offensive perimeter as quick as possible. Both sides probably had the same mindset to do that. We did, fortunately, win the race, Kane that is, but we certainly didn't win the battle of the first day. Kane fell asleep at the wheel, which I don't think was an over detriment to the whole battle, because he really probably couldn't have done much other than, you know, keep them off the planet for a little bit. But anyway, that definitely wasn't a pivoting moment or anything. It was just sort of, this was, oh my goodness, this was this is how everything unfolded on the first day. Let's bring it up to the end of day 1 here. So as you can see, we are in a defensive position. Path of Hades definitely has the upper hand on us here. They brought a lot of deltas down the left side, and they were at a bit of advantage here because their gate was on the left, whereas ours directly above us was the level 10 where the biggest battle was happening, and that's where their mining planet was going to be. So Path of Hades just had to shoot some players directly south, and they were already on top of us. So we immediately had to get into a defensive position. All right, so I've rewinded a little bit, and I was just giggling to myself because for some reason, I don't know, I'm looking at this and it just reminds me of those old elementary school dances where everyone's standing on opposite side of the room waiting for one to come over and ask the other one to dance. But anyways, what you're seeing here is Kane did make into the sector by himself, and they've got a bunch of ships in the same sector. So we're sort of thinking our defensive game out here, and our deltas are forced to make a hard right here. So they're gonna go around here a little bit. We've got some got some barrier about to pop off and hold everyone basically in position here. Look at the size of this barrier. That's nuts. Who's that again? That was Sarah, right? Yeah, Sarah's got a level 8 barrier, and it's massive. Makes me want to focus on my barrier research a little bit right here, doesn't it? So effectively holding everyone in place with his level 8 barrier slows down our deltas, allows them to get into a position where they can sort of string them up. And what we see here is Kane trying to drag Bond Sarah down. And how we counter Bond, of course, is with a teleport. So Sarah's gonna teleport. I hope I'm saying that right. Sehar, Sehar, S-E-H-R, Sarah. So we got another bubble going off here, and these bubbles are huge. Black Death's bubble of 8, and anyway, Sarah teleports, into a sector where we've started to gen spam, which was wonderful. So we had to counter just like this. And this comes down to the whole not sleeping part. So, you know, normally that right there wouldn't have happened as quickly. Noticing someone teleporting and jumping right on it. So he becomes an immediate threat. But the reason I highlight this is because I almost had a heart attack during this position in the actual game. So I believe, oh god, see this replay stuff, I'm glad is getting fixed in the next patch. Like threading the needle here, I want to show you guys what I was seeing real time. So Hobofro follows him down and pops a Destiny to the point where he literally had like 0.1 health left in his battleship, and I had an oh crap moment because I thought he had survived and Destiny was miscalculated, but it wasn't. He does blip out of existence, and That was a gut-wrenching moment right there. So Hobofro Destiny's off to, well, this was probably the only good Destiny I think we had in the entire match. And it really didn't net us much. So he Destiny's over here and there's a miner coming in and nothing comes of that. Alright, so coming back to these level 10s, because I think the center big first battle really sets a precedent for the rest of the match. And usually does. That's, you know, the first battle, who wins that first battle usually sets the playing field for the back and forth Wimbledon that happens. So we focused on the teleport bond that happens here, and the fact that our deltas are trying to get around this big mob. Because they beat us to the sector, it sort of had us on our heels a little bit here. Our deltas try to make it around, etc., etc., but we're forced to also jump to where their teleports are going to. Their teleports, I believe, were like level 7 and up. Level 8. Look at the range on this thing. Level 8. This guy didn't. This guy's running Vengeance and Sank. Oh, you know how much I love Sanctuary. Another Vengeance and Sank ship. You know, if you're gonna run Vengeance, I don't agree with running Sanctuary still. Like, I don't agree with Sanctuary to begin with. But if you're gonna be a suicide bomber, you don't get to live from being a suicide bomber. I think running Sanctuary, I mean, it makes sense because you're ultimately wanting your ship to be a bomb. But there's so much you could put in that slot, man. That Sanctuary slot. For those of you that don't know what Vengeance is basically a self-destruct that happens before you die. It blows up and does X amount of damage in the perimeter. And a Vengeance 8 is going to do 10,000, I've got a reference here, 10,450 area damage when it dies. So that's essentially an Omega 4, 5. Anyways, if you don't have your shields up, it kills you. Gone like that. Level 7 teleport. Yeah, so the teleports all around were pretty massive. So got to keep that in mind. You notice I'm clicking on the mod to make it sort of bigger and show me where that range is, because that's so important. So Zenzen does an impulse teleport because he gets barriered, and he's going one-on-one with this blast shield, but because he's got dual laser, he's not going to do a whole lot against that Bat 8, and thought roll the dice, and ends up in like the perfect spot to get killed. because you're disabled after you Destiny for 8 hours. He was just basically tying them up with the barrier. It would have been really good if, I don't know, a rocket. I don't know what the best choice would have been there. If Simbat's not, anyway. So they don't like Black Death running for the backfield here, which is important, I guess, because that could have caused a whole bunch of havoc with that level 7 Destiny. So they drag him back to the planet here, and I don't think Black Death in his entire life has ever been asleep for any pivotal moments. So I guess what happens here is there wasn't enough people in the Destiny bubble. Right here, though, it could have been. I guess it really came down to what he was thinking. I mean, that teleport 9 could have really put him anywhere. So that is ridiculous. I have no words for that ring. Looking at the Black Death battle here, I was trying to figure out why we didn't move in to help him. I think the reason is we've got some high level dual lasers here and a high level barrage here. So we want to give them as little targets as possible, and they really couldn't do anything to Black Death. I think my only internal question is why the Destiny didn't go off sooner. But I mean, there's probably good thought behind that. We do have one ship that disappears, and we've got the 2 Vengeance Sanctuaries here. Now, my favorite part about this is the fact that he runs away. Well, I wouldn't say he's running away. He's running south, going south for some reason. Anyways, I can always only surmise what the thought process here was. But the Destiny goes off, the Vengeance goes off. It takes the Destiny takes out the Vengeance ship. Doesn't quite kill that Vengeance ship, but that goes off. It basically kills my shield, but it's only 4 hours to go till refresh. And this battle is pretty much done. We're gonna wrap this one up. So taking a step back here for a second, 3 days, 22 hours, we do have an imminent problem here. Teleport coming into our asteroid fields, and a teleport coming into effectively what is our relic planet. And you can see in comparison, we don't have those threats there. So they did really well out of the gate. Focusing on the deltas coming down to our mining operation here, we've got some delta enemies coming down, and we do have an impulse stealth bond build here, which is nice. Mass battery, which we haven't seen a whole lot of. Some dual laser, a lot of dual laser on the Path of Hades side. I'm not gonna lie about that. So you're gonna see this sort of unfold. There goes the impulse. Looking at Pleiades and Ray's fight here, what happened was Ray went to impulse, so Pleiades went to barrier him in place, and then Ray went to bond Pleiades, so the impulse would matter, and then Pleiades teleported to break the bond. So they burned a whole ton of mods in a matter of like no time, and then so that effectively forced Ray to do his stealth and not get chewed up. Looking at cattle coming in here, I want to show you guys something that Path of Hades did a few times during this match. So cattle is going to get barriered in place here, and he's got Fortify, which helps him a lot, and he's got dual lasers, so rockets don't work too bad, and you could just pile on top of him, but he has Destiny, which does 8,800 damage or 8,500 damage, whatever it is. It's over 8,000 damage. And what they do here is, see if I can catch this on replay here, is there's a guy coming in from the gate here that has Leap, Ian. Ian's going to come in with Leap and Sanctuary. Great job, Ian, with the Sanctuary. He knew he was jumping into no man's land. He's going to leap to cattle, and cattle destinies, and Black Snow doesn't have any hull left, so it kills Black Snow. And then once he leaps, he teleports onto the planet, because we didn't have barrier up, because we didn't expect that, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak because I don't know if we expect it or not. Clearly, it's a problem. So he's going to teleport, and he's going to teleport Destiny, of course, and we've got to get the hell out of Dodge. But I believe it happened during the middle of the night, or whatever the reason may be, and Sneaky bites it. So we lose 3 relics. It's like 2.5 relics on Sneaky there. So we lost our first squishy. The worst part of this entire situation, because like I said, they did this a couple times in the match. The worst part about this situation, let's see if I can capture this. He destinied to the gate. But this is also an important note here too, that during all of this pressure they're giving us, and I'm going to talk about Sneaky's battle in the bottom right corner here in a few minutes. They seem to turtle, is the proper term, I believe someone explained to me. They're retreating everything back to home base. So I don't know why this call was made, but they definitely could have kept more pressure on us. But I mean, the fact that we were running back to the gate, maybe it didn't seem like a good idea. I mean, there's a lot of factors of why they would do this, but they should have kept the pressure up. But instead, they turtled back to the gate. They essentially retreated, allowed us to get reorganized back to gen spamming again and do that whole spiel. So yeah, we lost a squishy, but that's okay. They gave us some breathing room. I'm not really sure why they gave us breathing room. So I was rewinding here and fast forwarding, and I happened to notice this miner, full miner, at a waypoint set for our asteroid field. I don't know why, but this battleship EMP'd him in place. So there must have been a mistake made and forced a mod to stop it. I'm not really sure what happened there. So moving back to the east, from what just happened there in the west, we do have narrative coming in. We saw that teleport happening when we were sort of viewing the 2 level 10s, and he's going to make a run for our miners, which are picking up some hydro from our new hydro field. We are able to get him EMP'd, but he's going to bubble, which is going to outweigh the EMP. EMP is 4 hours, and the bubble's at 6. So at this point, they have a Destiny land to the right of us, Tooth Fairy, who happens to have a rocket. So he fires it off. And what we did to counter this, because it was the middle of the night and your good old boy Rocky was sleeping, it looks like Blue loads up a barrier and stops that rocket just in time for me to get out of the way. So that was nice, nice of him to load up a transport and do that. And we were able to kill the other gentleman narrative quickly. So then, like simultaneously, a battleship lands on our gate, which I'm not counting as a lucky destiny, because you're dead. You might as well disband unless you've got a barrier to troll us, which he did, because it was already popped. So we throw out a time warp, throw out a rocket, he's done. Piece of cake. Then the battle happens over here. Sneaky has a hell of a time with the battleships on this side. We're just going to fast forward and watch this unfold. So right now he's dealing with just the Tooth Fairy. And the Tooth Fairy has EMP'd everything in place to stall. Then there's a teleport that happens. This guy's going to come down and try and play hero. I really thought Sneaky was dead here a lot. Then we have another Destiny landing in the same sector. So 3v1. That gentleman runs away. Tooth Fairy runs away. And Blue runs south. Sneaky follows. Impulses. Rocket kills the one battleship. And Sneaky lives. This is phenomenal. It's such a good story. Oh, look. Another person. Another person to the party. And yeah. I want you guys to see this use of Delta Rocket. Delta Rocket it's such a neat concept and can really cause some headaches when used in the proper way. We haven't seen any Delta Rockets really used previously. I think there might have been one launched in the last match that didn't go anywhere. I could be wrong about that. But looking at this one, the timing is everything. So this Delta Rocket sneaks past everybody, and it's going to waypoint itself to the miner, which there's a battleship there, so it's not really going to do much other than get shot down. But Delta Rocket is so interesting. If you can, like, if you can use it correctly and time it correctly, it could be a real pain in the ass. But at 20v20, there's a lot of battleships on the field, so you really gotta thread that needle. I can see it being effective in a smaller match, 5v5, maybe 10v10, but 20v20, you really gotta you gotta get lucky, I think. I don't know. I'm really excited to see more of that in the upcoming matches. So we throw on time warp and we go to try and cherry pick from the level 10s, because we saw they were sort of backing off, but then they brought deltas down through the south. So they're going to teleport and they're going to try and cut us off. And this is where it becomes important to preemptively load up your transports with Entrust if you can. This was an expensive loss for Hobo, because he's got shipment drone on here, level 4. I think that's a 40k mod. And but he happened to have Entrust on here. So what you're going to see is this battleship is going to kill Hobo's transport, but he's able to entrust that relic to Kane, because Kane was stuck in a barrier from... Where was he stuck in a barrier from? Stuck in a barrier from here. So the enemy actually played themselves on this one. So he was able to entrust that off, and he got a nice high target, high value target killed. Poor transport. But we did manage to save the relic. So I just wanted to focus on that a little bit. So I had to rewind this, and I want to capture this if I can. So you're going to see Pistol. Yeah, I can't get it. Can't get it. So Pistol basically sets up Bond and Destiny, and it Bond and Destiny's him and the enemy over to this planet here. But effectively, he's disabled for 8 hours. A little bit more with the time warp. There's a transport here. It would have been real good if we could have done anything with that, capitalized. But the enemy Destiny's and show's over. So after the Bond Destiny, we have this imminent threat here. And I think what the goal here is they've got a Leap Destiny Sanctuary person here with Mirror and Duel. The idea was to probably let him get into combat so he could leap, and the closest leap landing spot would have been the planet, and then there were Destiny, and it would be an absolute nightmare. So what we did to counter that was a bond just outside of combat range, because you can't leap to a target that's not in combat. Really important to know that. So I think the mistake was made. There was a mistake made, an error, if you will. Mistakes always sound so harsh. It was an error made. That Black Death probably should have waypointed to here, which would have pushed the target further away in that direction. But setting him down south, I think that was an error. So he's going to bond him out of the way, which gives us time because you can obviously see what they're lining up here. He tries to barrier, but barrier and bond don't work. It stops Hobo from moving, but it doesn't stop Black Death from dragging him on into no man's space because he's not in the sector anymore. That's pretty cool. So we evacuate the planet, and obviously I didn't get the memo. So this guy charges the planet, and the second that he gets into combat, they wait for this transport to get on the planet, and then the leap happens. You can leap inside a barrier. There's no point in barriering. Barrier too late because he's in combat, and boom. Those relics are gone. That's another couple relics down the pipe. So we're still winning 14-10 at this point, but they're managed to take out three squishies at this point. Maybe three. Yeah. So we're gonna fast forward this along. That guy ends up getting EMP'd, barriered, killed. No big deal. Farm barely makes it out alive. And we do one last hoorah. Only 21 hours left in the game here. We knew by looking at their planet, which we're gonna talk about in a few minutes here, that they had out-reliced us. So we did a big push to generate as much Hydro as possible, and then around the 18th hour, see this RNG for the Destiny? He had no mods left in Sanctuary, so it doesn't really matter. That rockets killed that business. So we got the relics pumping. Sorry. So we get the Hydro pumping, and we all bring in transports at this time. I couldn't make it in because I still had a cooldown, so there's no point. 14 hours. So 14 hours, a lot of people would look at this and be like, oh, they can't pull this off. How are they going to pull this off? So 5 relics on the planet. We got a half full, 2 half full miners coming in. And yeah, I mean, you guys should understand that this story goes very well for us. We get everything loaded up with 14 hours spare, 8 hours start heading out, 5 hours even. And Kane, with his entrust, throws his 3 relics to, I think it was Hobo, because he doesn't make it back a time machine, which was a sacrifice Kane made. It's certainly a noble one. And with 8 minutes to spare, we've got all of our relics sitting on it. Had they not jumped relics out? Yeah, so they hadn't jumped them all out. That's why the count didn't make sense. But there goes Supernoza 52 to 50. So that's what won it for us, is the fact that we took the 14-hour marker and tried to load up as many relics as possible, and it paid out. It paid off in the end. Holy moly. Alright, so we're going to unpack the Path of Hades side, and I just so happened to see this miner out in front of the Battleship pack, and I thought that was kind of weird. And it was SyS with his level 8 teleport, and I did this and I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Look at where the teleport marker is compared to where his miner is. I think it's a graphical thing. I hope it's a graphical thing, because if not, it's a bug. So anyway, he teleports out in front of the pack and he does a crunch. This basically eliminates any waypoints that would have been set here. So this comes back to the very beginning where we talked about they were voiding sectors, and that's what he's doing here. So the back line stays pretty clear for about a day, almost 2 full days. And then you start seeing us come in. So Rhett impulses, good use of impulse to get in there real quick. He's got EMP and barrier on him, and we thought we could get here past this transport. Barrier went up. So at this point, he got suppressed. Couple Clay here has suppress, which look at the range on this level 6 suppress, which is not overly expensive. If you guys are looking to take suppress and a white star, it's not a bad choice. It gets really OP in higher levels of tech, but that's why there's a nerf coming this patch. So he gets suppressed, which doesn't allow him to kill this miner, and he's just going to coast on by. So best bet is to, I guess, EMP and barrier and hope for the best here. But that gives him full opportunity to get in position to where his waypoint was, and he just gets crushed, which doesn't effectively get rid of any squishies. Alright, so stepping back here for a second, this is where we start to try and make a push at least, me and Pistol, and we've got Black Death here sort of tangling with two guys. So I'm going to come up here, and I messed something up by setting a waypoint. I don't really remember the details, but I know I had screwed up Pistol's plan here. So he's going to spearhead the planet, and I'm going to just try and teleport around these guys. So me teleporting like that, they EMP'd me before I took off and effectively knew where I was going, and I got chewed up with rockets and an incoming battleship. So that was the death of Ass Eater 3.0. We are now at 4.0. But I EMP'd all those rockets in this guy for 7 hours just because I could, and then I disbanded. So our pushes here didn't make any type of dent. I guess it kept them on their toes for the most part. So now we've got a push coming up from the west, which involved Virtual, Kilder, and J-Dubs. And we were going to try and do some leaps and stuff. So Quill comes in. Kane comes in staggering with his 1 HP. And so you can see here, we really tried this. Why is there a miner there, you say? Let's break that down real quick. Zenzen brought in a miner with Crunch, Sleep, and Gen and Enrich just for good measure. And what he did was when our Battleship VV, Virtual V, I've never called him V before, I don't know why I just did that, got close enough into this sector here, the idea was that he would leap to it and crunch it, and it would make enough headway that the nearest leap point would hopefully have been the planet. But I guess it was failed measure. I'm thinking because it didn't crunch the entire field. I don't have the full detail in front of me, but there is still lots of roids around, so that didn't work out. The plan didn't work out the way they had intended it. When I get the full story, I'll put it in the description down below. I don't have time to dig for it right now. So as you can see, lots of barriers going on, lots of big barriers as well. Not a whole lot of headway happening, which is unfortunate. We got some bonding going on, removing us, like picking up the garbaging and putting it to the curb essentially. It's like, okay guys, enough is enough. Just get out of here. Let us do our relic production. I thought it was interesting that they never really did multiple runs for relics. It was just, they sat on their planet pretty much the whole time. We've got one transport here running back, but for the most part, there was no moving back and forth between the planets, likely because they didn't have to, I would assume. But as you can see, as I'm slowly just scrolling through this, there's no real headway happening. We don't manage to catch any squishies, from my knowledge at least. We got a lot of bonds, a lot of time warps, a lot of barriers, coming down to the 20th hour here. And they're ahead of the game. They've got more relics than us. Our initial push has been now destroyed, and we're pretty much stalling at this point. I told Black Death if he managed to get through with this teleport that I would do him a favor, but it never happened. The favor being that I would rename the video after him, by the way. Yeah, as you can see here, they start pulling back, and just like my footage, it ends. The camera cut out. Final score being 52-50 for us. And that, like I said at the beginning of this video, this was a really intense match. I think both teams did fantastic. Not a lot of dumb errors. A lot of great coordination from both sides of the map. Didn't see a lot of people going AFK. A lot of people reacting in the middle of the night on both sides. My hat is off to everyone over at Path of Exile, and of course to my beautiful team System Shock. You guys are phenomenal inside and outside of game. I can't thank those guys enough. And I think I'm going to end it here. Oh man, it only took a few hours, but we're finally done here. We're finally done here. Thanks so much for watching. If you managed to stay awake till the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Hit a like button, subscribe, all that good jazz. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. You don't need to see my ugly mug on your feed. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. This video has been brought to you by
the letter V.
For victory. If you like victories, join System Shock. We're always looking for active members to join our corporation and kick ass in white stars. Oh, it's super silly, isn't it? Or check out this video down in whichever corner it shows up in.